My wife left me for my business partner, she only expected to receive divorce papers. But I give out her boyfriend's STD test with positive results as a bonus. Wife ditched me for my business partner, so I handed her the divorce papers and his HIV test results. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Here I was at a major Chamber of Commerce function, about to receive an award, and Rhonda, my wife of 10 years, had just whispered in my ear that she was going to leave with Gerald, my business partner, for a weekend in Las Vegas immediately after the award ceremony. "Are you out of your mind?" I asked quietly, so as not to be heard by anyone else. "Only with lust," she whispered back. "For him. Right now, I'm feeling him through his trousers, and soon I'll be putting it in me. We need to talk," I told her. "But not now. Later, after we get home from the ceremony." "No, Ron. I'm telling you how it's going to be," she said. "If you want to talk, you can give me some ideas or maybe remind me of the things you've always wanted me to do with you but refused. I'll be home Monday evening, and we can talk then if you still feel the need." This was the start of a 3-day weekend, and I knew she didn't have to be back to work until Tuesday. "And you plotted this with him?" I asked quietly. "Of course," she said. "His wife also knows." I looked and saw my soon-to-be ex-partner and friend sitting next to Rhonda with a smug grin on his face. I wanted to punch him, but not here, not in front of all these people, these so-called pillars of the community. I looked at Judy, his wife, who sat next to him. She didn't look too happy at all. Apparently, she also knew about this. My mind was racing, but I focused back on the present when I heard my name called by the master of ceremonies. I got up, shook his hand, and accepted the award, holding it for a second as a photographer took a picture. I gave my prepared acceptance speech and noticed, as I did, that Rhonda's hand was in Gerald's lap. I decided to make an impromptu change in my speech. On my notes, I had included an acknowledgement of my wife, but I ended my speech early, not even mentioning her name. Instead, I thanked the community for their support and the chamber for the award, then ended my speech. I didn't know if anyone would notice the slight, but Rhonda mentioned it after I sat back down. "What? Didn't I even rate a mention?" she asked sarcastically as I took a sip of my now tepid drink. I simply glared at her, not saying a word. "So that's how it's going to be, huh? Well, like I said, we'll talk Monday evening when I get back." Gerald got up and headed for the podium, deliberately bumping into me on his way up. "If you go through with this, don't bother coming back," I whispered to Rhonda as Gerald spoke. "There will be nothing here for you to come back to." To emphasize the point, I slipped my ring off my finger and handed it to her. She smirked as she dropped it in her purse. "You know why I'm doing this, don't you?" she asked. "Of course you do. It's for what you did with Judy." "Don't lie, I know all about it. I have pictures. So you'll say or do nothing." "Let me do this, and we'll talk when I get back." "Don't do this, Rhonda," I said. "Nothing happened between Judy and me except dinner. We can talk about it after the ceremony." "Too late," she said. "It's going to happen. The tickets have already been bought, the reservations made. I'm going to give Gerald my bare body this weekend. I'm going to let him do whatever he wants to me, and there's nothing you can say or do to stop me." "What if I told you he's HIV positive?" I asked. She laughed. "I wouldn't believe you. You'd say or do just about anything to keep me from going," she said. "Don't say I didn't warn you," I told her. "I guarantee that if you do this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Look, just enjoy the weekend without me," she said. "Go play golf or something. When I get back, things will go on as before." I couldn't believe the nerve of this woman. "No, they won't, Rhonda," I told her. "We'll see about that," she said. A minute or two later, Gerald returned and took his seat. Rhonda turned to him, and I could see she had placed her hand back in his lap. Disgusted, I turned away from her. Finally, the event was over, and we got up to leave. "This is your last chance, Rhonda," I said. She and Gerald smirked as they looked at me. "We're leaving now, Ron," she said. "I may call you or not. Either way, I'll see you Monday." "No hard feelings, partner," Gerald said. "I promise not to damage her too badly for you." "We're done, Gerald," I told him calmly, "as partners and friends. I don't ever want to see or hear from you again." "We'll see about that, partner," he said as he guided Rhonda away. I turned and looked at Judy, who had tears falling down her face. "Do you need a ride home?" I asked her. She shook her head. "No, I have one. You were coming for me," she said. "Thanks for asking anyway." "Didn't you tell them that nothing happened between us?" I asked. "That it was just a dinner and a conversation?" "I tried, but they wouldn't listen," she said. "Gerald has pictures of us at the restaurant, and Rhonda insists it was a prelude to an affair. You know how she can get sometimes." Yeah, I knew, all right. Until now, the only complaint I had about Rhonda was her uncanny ability to act on false assumptions, and once she got something in her head, there was almost nothing anyone could do to change her mind. I see, I told her. I'm sorry, Ron, she said. You don't deserve this? I only hope he thought enough to bring protection. It doesn't matter, I said. Whether he uses protection or not is immaterial. The fact that she's going to let him is all that matters. No, I'm finished with both of them. What are you going to do? She asked. What I need to, I told her. What about you? I told Gerald if he went through with this, I'd divorce him, she said. And that's exactly what I intend to do. This isn't the first time he's cheated on me, but by God, it'll be the last. Good for you, I said. Let me know if there's anything I can do. If you like, I can refer you to a good lawyer. Thanks, Ron, she said. I appreciate that. With that, she left, and I followed shortly, making my way back to the car. On the way home, I thought about the last 10 years with Rhonda. We married about 5 years after Gerald and I went into business together. Gerald introduced me to her after we had been in business for about 4 years. By then, he and Judy had been married for 3 years. Rhonda and I dated, fell in love, and eventually got married. Gerald was the best man at our wedding, and I never would have believed he would be capable of doing something like this. I never thought Rhonda would either. By the time we got married, the business was growing significantly. My lawyer suggested I have her sign a prenuptial agreement to protect my assets, which included my home and the business. She didn't like it, but she signed it anyway. I made sure the agreement was equitable and included a clause for infidelity. I had a lot to do and not much time to get it done. It was still fairly early in the evening when I got home, so I called my lawyer, Jim Simpson, on his cell. Hey, Ron, he said. I thought you and Rhonda would be celebrating your award tonight. What's going on? He listened as I told him what happened earlier in the evening. Oh my God, Ron, I'm so sorry to hear that, he said when I finished. Do you want me to start drawing up papers? Yes, Jim, I said. I want a divorce for adultery based on our prenuptial agreement, and I want you to draw up papers dissolving the partnership. When Gerald and I drew up the partnership, we included a clause that said the partnership could be dissolved if one or more of the partners engaged in morally unacceptable behavior that could significantly impact the operation of the business. I felt this certainly fell into that category. Are you sure about that? He asked. Yes, I said. Absolutely. I want it reorganized as a sole proprietorship, if possible. I know we had talked about incorporating it as a limited liability company before. Maybe this is the time to do that. All right, I'll get the ball rolling on that, Jim said. It's going to take some time though. I know, I said. But I want the partnership dissolved as fast as possible, and I want my losses mitigated as much as possible. Consider it done, my friend, he said. Thanks, I said, ending the call. I knew that under the terms of the agreement, I would have to pay Gerald something to get him out of the company. The less I had to give him, the better. I knew Jim would come through for me. A couple of hours later, I got a call from Rhonda. I just wanted to let you know we're at the hotel in Vegas, she said. I'm so ready for a weekend of hot sex. Rhonda, you should know before you do this that Gerald is HIV positive, I said. If you go through with this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Stop this nonsense and come home right now. If you do, then maybe, and I do mean maybe, we can fix our marriage. Oh Ron, she said with a laugh. Are you still on that? Get over yourself, this is going to happen. I am going to let Gerald check my brains out all weekend long. In fact, I'm getting wet just thinking about it. Maybe if you're a good boy, I'll feed you some of his cack when I get home. Rhonda, I'm warning you, I began to say, but she had already ended the call. That was it. I had warned her, but she refused to listen. The rest of my now screwed up weekend was spent erasing Rhonda from my life. On Jim's advice, I went to the bank on Saturday morning and took care of things there, paying off her credit card before canceling it. I got 3 voicemails from Rhonda and a few text messages over the weekend. She was doing her best to get me riled up. Oh yeah, she moaned in one of her voicemails. Gerald's caught is buried deep in me right now, Ron. It's so much bigger than yours and feels so much better. In case you're wondering, I've swallowed him several times already. I know I've never done that for you, but he is just so delicious. Maybe I'll let him get me pregnant. Gotta go now. He's getting ready once again. Bye-bye now. The other voicemails were very similar. I forwarded all of them to Jim so he could have them as proof of Rhonda's adultery. I also forwarded them to Judy so she could use them in her divorce from Gerald. I called a locksmith and had all of the locks changed on the doors. I wasn't worried about keeping the house, as I had bought it before we got married, and the mortgage was in my name only. I tossed all of her clothes and prized possessions into trash bags and crammed them into her car, leaving enough room for her to drive. I pulled the car out of the garage and left it in the driveway. I took down all of the photos that included Rhonda, broke up the large wedding portrait that hung over the fireplace, and placed the broken pieces inside to be burned. By the time I was finished, there was no evidence that she had ever been in the place. After listening to her voicemails the next morning, I called her mother and said, "We need to talk." She invited me over for lunch, so I went. After eating a sandwich, she asked me what was going on. I told her everything. I even played the voicemails Rhonda had left. By the time I finished, she was inconsolable. "That stupid girl," she said. "I can't believe she would do something like this to you. I'm so sorry, Ron. Of course, she can stay here until she gets back on her feet, but I'm going to tan her hide for this." "I'm sorry as well, Mom," I told her. I had always thought of Rhonda's mother as Mom, especially since my own mother had died from a stroke a few years before. "She's going to need all the help and support you can give her," I said. "Of course," she said. "But I'm still going to put her over my knee." I chuckled and gave her a hug. "Please stay in touch, Ron," she said as we broke the hug. "I promise I will," I said and left. She was still wiping tears from her face as I walked out. From there, I went to a tavern that served the juiciest burgers and enjoyed one with a couple of beers. Jim called me on Monday to say he had the paperwork drawn up, so I went to his office. Everything looked good, so I paid his retainer and left. The papers would be filed with the court the next day, which was Tuesday. "Where would you like her served?" Jim asked. "Preferably at her place of work," I said. "She humiliated me in public, so I think it's only fair I return the favor." "Okay," he said. I received a couple more voicemails from Rhonda that day, the last one letting me know she was on her way home. I got a good laugh when Gerald dropped her off that evening at about 5:30 and then took off. Apparently, he was too cowardly to face me after what he had done. I waited and heard her come onto the porch. She tried her keys, but none of them worked. Finally, she rang the doorbell. I ignored it for a few minutes until she started pounding on the door. "Let me in, damn it," she yelled. I got up, walked to the door, and opened it, stepping outside. She looked at me and tried to walk inside, but I stopped her. "What are you doing?" "I live here too," she said. "No, you don't," I told her. "Not anymore. You gave up that right when you left Friday night." "But I told you I would be back, and we could discuss things if you still wanted to," she said. "And why is my car in the driveway? Why isn't it in the garage? What's all that stuff in it?" "That's all your stuff, Rhonda," I said. "Like I said, you don't live here anymore." "Look, I know you're upset," she said. "We can talk about it if you want. I wanted to talk to you on Friday, but you weren't interested, remember? I practically begged you to listen to me, but you flat out refused and insisted on spending the weekend with Gerald." "That's right," she said. "Since you were with his wife, I figured I deserved some revenge." "And what proof do you have that I slept with Judy?" I asked. "Show me." She pulled out her phone and showed me a picture of Judy and me at a restaurant table. "What's that?" she asked. "That's two people talking over dinner," I said. "There's no proof of anything in that picture, and nothing happened between Judy and me. For that matter, I have never been with another woman since you and I became exclusive." "Then why were you having dinner with her?" Rhonda asked. "Surely you expected something afterward." "There you go again, making false assumptions," I said. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about on Friday, but you refused to listen to me," I said. "Tell me, did Gerald use protection this weekend?" "Of course not," she said. "You know I hate protection." "I see," I said. "And I guess you let him finish inside you multiple times." "That's right," she said. "I still have some of him inside me right now. I was going to let you clean it out of me, and if you were repentant, I was going to let you have sex with me. But I don't think that's going to happen." "So you were planning to slaughter me then?" I said. Her eyes widened. "Of course not," she said. "Where did you get that silly idea?" "Do you remember a few months back when Gerald said he wasn't feeling well?" I asked. "That was just a few weeks after he returned from a trip back east." "Yeah, I remember," she said. "I suggested he go see his doctor and get checked out. He never told you what the doctor said, but Judy learned that he tested positive for HIV. You want to know how she found out? She learned because he infected her. She tested positive just recently. That's what we were talking about at dinner that night. At the time he infected her, he didn't know he had it. But he sure as hell knew this past weekend when he was with you. I handed her a copy of Gerald's test results that Judy had given me the night we had dinner. Rhonda's face turned white, and her eyes widened. I even told you on Friday, I continued, but you refused to listen. Oh my God, you were telling the truth, she said, doubling over and vomiting in the front yard. I stood there watching as she retched several times. When she finished, she looked at me, terrified. I'm going to die, aren't I? She asked. I shrugged. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. Judy said her doctor told her that it's not the death sentence it used to be, but it's still pretty serious. At any rate, I suggest you see Dr. Barnes first thing in the morning and let him know. Have him run some tests. Maybe if he catches it early enough, he can do something. But I do know one thing, our marriage is dead. Where will I go? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Your mother said you can stay with her until you get back on your feet, I said. My mother? You told my mother? She asked, shocked. Yes. She deserves to know the truth, don't you think? I guess, she said. And you'll be serving me with divorce papers? Yes, I told her. They'll be served at work sometime this week. Please no, I don't want a divorce. Can't we work through this? We probably could have if you had talked to me on Friday instead of leaving me to spend the weekend with him in Vegas. But you just had to have things your way. You made your bed, Rhonda, now you get to lie in it. So what were you doing with Judy at that restaurant? She asked. I already told you, talking, I said. She got her test results and wanted to talk to me. She asked if I had any idea that Gerald was positive. Of course, I told her the truth, I didn't. I was trying to help her and Gerald get through this, but it seems he had her followed. He got those pictures of us at the restaurant. Naturally, when you saw them, you made your usual false assumptions, and here we are. I hope it was worth it to you. Please, can't you just give me one more chance? She begged. I'm dying here, I said. I've been dying since you walked out on me Friday night. But I love you, she cried. Yeah, right, I thought. Don't you have any love for me at all? Love you? Right now, I don't even like you, I said. Now get off my lawn. I walked back inside and slammed the door, locking it behind me. I looked through the window and saw her sobbing as she knelt on the lawn. She looked completely defeated and forlorn, but at that moment, I didn't care. Eventually, she turned and slowly walked to her car, still crying. I watched as she backed out of the driveway and drove off. The next day, I got to the office early, hoping to catch Gerald when he arrived. I had already advised security to confiscate his badge when he came in and had a couple of security officers waiting by his office. When he arrived, he gave me a smirk, but it vanished when he saw the officers. What's this all about? He asked. They're here to confiscate your badge and make sure you don't take any company property when you leave, I told him. Leave? I'm not going anywhere. Wrong answer, I said. As of today, the partnership is dissolved. You no longer work here. Bull, you can't do that. Read the agreement we both signed, I replied, tossing a copy of it on his desk. I had highlighted the appropriate clause. The dissolution of the partnership is being filed this morning, and the company is temporarily being reorganized as a sole proprietorship. I'll give you 15 minutes to pack your trash and get off the property before I have you escorted out. Is this all because I was with your wife over the weekend? He asked. Partly. It's also for deliberately exposing her to HIV, which I've been told is a crime in this state. What? He asked, shocked. I saw your test results. Judy showed them to me. That's what we were discussing that day in the restaurant. She told me you infected her as well. I was planning to make you a silent partner so you could keep your medical coverage and still earn an income, but what you did this weekend was beyond the pale. You knew you were infected, but you still chose to spend the weekend with Rhonda without informing her. That's illegal in this state. The two of you had this all planned out, except she didn't know you were HIV positive. In my view, what you did violates the terms of our partnership agreement. I had considered giving you a severance package, but in light of your actions, I've changed my mind. Now get out. You can't do this, he exclaimed. I'll fight you on this, so help me God. I'll start spreading rumors that you've been sleeping with half the female staff, threatening their jobs if they don't go along with what you want. Really? I asked. You'd deliberately slander me in the community for revenge, on top of deliberately infecting my wife with HIV so she could infect me. By the time I'm done, you won't have any business at all. I smiled and pulled an audio recorder from my pocket. I pressed a button and played our conversation back to him. I think that should add a few million to the lawsuit and help secure a conviction. Not to mention the fact that you made your claim in front of at least 2 witnesses, right? I asked, looking at the 2 security guards, who smiled and nodded their heads. I glanced at my watch. You know, I used to think you were my best friend. I also used to think you were quite intelligent. I see now that my initial assessment of you was wrong. You have 10 minutes to pack up and get the hell off my property. I looked at the guards before speaking again. Keep an eye on him. Make sure he doesn't touch his computer and only takes what's his. Yes, sir, Mr. Hastings? One of the guards said. Gerald packed his things as the security guards watched. On his way out, he stopped by my office. I'm sorry, Ron, he said. Just go. Get out. After Gerald left, I called a meeting of all the employees. It was crowded in the main office, but I felt they deserved to know there would be changes. I told them that Gerald was no longer with the company and that the partnership had been dissolved. I assured them that this change wouldn't affect their jobs in the long run, but it could cause some short-term disruptions. One of the employees asked why Gerald left, but all I said was that it was a personal matter. The next several weeks were a blur. Rhonda was served with divorce papers at her place of work on Thursday, which prompted a great deal of gossip. Her mother told me she had gone to see the doctor on Tuesday, but it would be a while before she got the results of her tests. Thankfully, Rhonda didn't flood me with calls or texts. It seemed she finally realized she had made a huge mistake, one that would affect her for the rest of her life. Realizing there would be no reconciliation, she signed the papers. Jim told me the divorce would be final in 90 days. Judy filed for divorce against Gerald on the grounds of adultery. She told me he was living in a motel room rented by the week until he could find something else. But he had another problem. After Rhonda's visit to Dr. Barnes, the doctor reported Gerald to the authorities. From what I learned, the state we live in requires those infected with HIV to inform their partners before any activity takes place. Since Rhonda said Gerald never informed her, he could receive up to 20 years in prison. I also learned that this was one of those laws many prosecutors didn't like to enforce, as there was a great chance of backlash. However, the local authorities decided to go after Gerald based on Rhonda's testimony. A week or so after being kicked out of his house, police showed up at the motel where he was staying and took him into custody. Concerned that he could present a danger to the general population, he was placed in solitary confinement. Gerald's trial became something of a circus. The prosecuting attorney painted him as a cruel, manipulative man who deliberately set out to infect me, his business partner, with the disease by first infecting Rhonda. Rhonda testified, as did I, and Judy also took the stand. The prosecutor also played the audio I had recorded in my office, putting Gerald in an even worse position. It didn't take long for the jury to convict him. Disgusted by what he heard, the judge sentenced Gerald to the maximum allowable sentence, 20 years in the state penitentiary. But Gerald's problems were far from over. Now he was in the middle of a divorce and civil litigation. After Judy's divorce was finalized, she sold her home and moved out of the area. Rhonda contacted me a few days before our divorce was finalized and asked if I would have dinner with her. After thinking about it, I agreed. I felt it was time for closure. We met at a quiet restaurant where we enjoyed a final meal. I hope you're not too scared or ashamed to be seen with me, she said. We're not going to be swapping any bodily fluids, so it shouldn't be a problem, I told her, half jokingly. I got the results of my test, she said. I'm positive. I'm not surprised, but I am sorry to hear that, I told her. It's not your fault. You tried to warn me, but I wouldn't listen. It's a mistake I'll be paying for the rest of my life. So what is the doctor doing? I asked. He's got me on antiretroviral therapy. It'll never be cured, but he tells me I can live a fairly normal life if I take the drug every day. Of course, I had to let my boss know. He's letting me telecommute so I can work from home. And Mom says I can stay with her as long as I need to. That's good to hear, I said. My lawyer is also filing a lawsuit against Gerald. I've been told it's pretty much a slam dunk with his conviction, but collecting may be an issue with him being in prison and all. I see, I told her. Well, I happen to know that his 401k was pretty substantial, even after subtracting Judy's portion. She also sold their house, so maybe you can get his half of that. Have you spoken with her recently? I have, she's out of the area, but we still talk from time to time. I'll mention that to her and see what she says. What happened to you, Rhonda? I asked after a while. I don't get it. I wanted to have kids with you, to spend the rest of my life with you. I don't know, she said quietly. When Gerald showed me those pictures of you with Judy, I lost it. I just knew you were having an affair with her. I really jumped the shark on that, didn't I? Just a bit. But why didn't you just talk to me? I asked. I was angry. I didn't want to hear anything you had to say. Judy tried to warn me as well, but I figured she was in cahoots with you and would say anything to stop me. I even told you that Friday about Gerald, she said. Twice. I hoped you would have gotten the hint. Frankly, I didn't want to hear anything you had to say, and now I'm paying the price. I'll be paying it for the rest of my life. Can you ever forgive me for being so stupid? I don't know, I said. Right now, it's all I can do to be civil around you. I thank you for that at least, she said. I know it's probably not easy for you. So, how are you holding up? She asked. I manage, I said. I stay pretty busy with the business. Now that Gerald is gone, my workload has doubled, so there's no shortage of things to do. Any women in your life? She asked. No, I said. I'm not in the market for a relationship, probably won't be for quite a while. Once bitten, twice shy, you know? I'm sorry, she said. I've learned a thing or two myself from all of this. Like what? I asked. Never trust anyone, she said. I looked at her shocked. I knew Gerald for years before I met you. That is, I thought I knew him. I had no idea he was capable of doing what he did. And the things I learned about him during their divorce frankly make me sick to my stomach. What you did certainly didn't help. I'm sorry, she said again. Yeah, well, it is what it is, I replied. I see you're still wearing your rings, I added, looking at her left hand. We're still technically married, she said. At least for a few more days. If you want them back, you can have them. But I was hoping you'd let me keep them. I don't want them, I said. I'd just take them down and sell them anyway. Why would you want them? As a reminder, she said. Of what? Of what I once had and threw away, she said softly. They're yours, I said. Do with them what you want. Thank you, she said quietly, a tear falling down her cheek. I'd better get going now, I said. I have a lot to do tonight. Tell your mother I said hello, and good luck. I will, she said. And thanks, Ron, I really am sorry about all this. Yeah, me too, Rhonda, goodbye. I could hear her sobbing as I left. I wasn't as angry as I was when this all first went down, but I still felt sad. It's not easy ending a decade-long relationship with someone you thought you'd spend the rest of your life with. Work went on as normal, and within a year, things had settled down to a steady roar. I had plenty of opportunities but chose not to date or pursue a relationship. I still had some serious trust issues after what Rhonda and Gerald had done to me. Life consisted of working, eating, and sleeping. I had no social life whatsoever. A year and a half after my divorce, Denise, my secretary, introduced me to her younger sister Angela, at a company event. She was a couple of years younger than me and had just gone through a divorce from her husband, who left her for another woman. We began dating, taking things one step at a time, slowly. Both of us had been burned by our previous spouses and still had some trust issues. But as we spent more time together, our trust in each other grew. We dated several times over the course of a month before we ended up spending the night together in my bed. A few months later, I popped the question, and she said yes. Our wedding is set for the spring, followed by a 5-day Caribbean cruise. We extended an invitation to Rhonda's mother, but we don't know if she plans to attend. I'm still hurting from what Rhonda and Gerald did, but Angela has done a superb job of healing the scars. I've done my best to help her heal as well, and I'm certainly looking forward to spending the rest of my life with her. Thinking about Angela, I'm often reminded of the old saying, sometimes the bad things that happen in our lives put us directly on the path to the best things that will ever happen to us.